Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Dhena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Happy New Year. Nice to see you all. Today's the 3rd, is that correct? How's the new year going so far? It's okay? It's gone by fast, right? We only have, there's an extra day in this year because it's a leap year. Did you know that? February has an extra day in it this year. It's a leap year. So there's February 29th this year. So you have 366 days this year. What are you all going to do with your extra day? What will you do with your extra day this year? Since there's a leap year, you get one whole extra day. Yes, Ramananda Saka, what are you going to do with your extra day?
For me, this is doing the same thing as other days. No difference.
No difference. Yeah?
I didn't realize that, but when you said that, I came to know that I'm going to get an extra day in Mayapur.
An extra day in Mayapur because of the
because of the leap year.
That's good. Anyone else have an investment plan for your extra day this year?
Extra day for
chanting. Extra day for chanting. Yes. Going to chant all day, 24 hours?
At least some rounds, if not all.
Okay. Yes? Extra day for the garlands. More garland making. Very good. Well, it's nice to think about. Time is our most valuable asset, isn't it? Because everything else, pretty much you can get more of, but time, we really don't know how much we have. Isn't that true? We may have an extra day this year, we may not. But those who utilize their time, especially for hearing and chanting about Krishna, performing devotional service, overcome the cycle of birth and death. Srimad Bhagavatam says, Ayur harati vaipumsam, that every time the sun rises and sets, it's taking away our life. In fact, it's speaking to us as it goes across the sky, saying, I'm taking away one more day. But then the Srimad Bhagavatam says, but those who are engaged in Krishna Bhakti, especially by hearing about Krishna, Uttama Shloka Vartaya. What does Uttama Shloka mean? It's a name of Krishna. Front row is disqualified. What does Uttama Shloka mean? What is Shloka? What's a Shloka?
Verse.
And Uttama?
Best.
The best. So, Uttama Shloka Vartaya. One of Krishna's names is Uttama Shloka, and that is he who is praised by the best verses, the best poetry in the world is meant to glorify Krishna. So, Uttama Shloka Vartaya means that those who are engaged in glorifying Krishna are not being robbed of their time, but actually they're advancing towards the supreme goal of life. It's actually a simple process, as Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhakti means if you simply try to give to Krishna whatever you have, connected to Him, then your life will become fruitful and successful. In the Gita, Krishna says, Yat koroshi adashashni, Yat johosi dadasi yat tapasyasi konteya, tat kurushva madarpadam. Yat koroshi adashnashi, Yat johosi dadasi yat tapasvasi konteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. That whatever you do, what do you all do? Work? Anything else? You cook? Anything else? What do you do every day, for sure? You eat. That's what, right? Pretty much for sure every day you eat, right? Everyone's attentive to that, for sure. what else do you do every day for sure? Whether you like it or not? Sleep, yeah. Kind of comes upon you. No matter if you want to stay awake or not, you've got to sleep sometime. So there are many things that are mandatory for us while we're in this body. And Krishna is saying, if you connect those to me, how would you connect your sleep to Krishna? He says, whatever you do, connect it to me. How would you connect your sleep? Front row is disqualified. Huh? Dream about Krishna. How do you do that? How do you dream about something? I mean, how would you actually get yourself to dream about Krishna? Suggestion? Think about Krishna all day. Can we use the microphones? It's 1, 2, 3. There's 3 regions, back, middle, and front. They're color-coded. One comes in the front, yellow's in the front, red's all the way in the back. Where's the third one for the middle? Srila Prabhupada gave the example that that's middle, green's middle. There was a merchant near where his father worked who was in the cloth market, and all day long he was quoting prices. And sometimes he would take a nap in his shop, lie on his side, go to sleep, and in his sleep he was quoting prices. And Prabhupada said, if you hear and chant during the daytime, then at nighttime you may be able to dream about Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna calls this swapna. Sleep is called dreaming, actually, swapna. You're going in a subtle level. So whatever you do in your daytime activities will carry over to the subtle activities that you perform in the night. What else do you do? Yes?
When you dream, when you sleep in the night, think about Krishna and the Gopikas and with his friends and everything. So that if you memorize thinking about him lot of times, it will be good it will be good memory also.
Okay. Reconfirming what we just said. If you hear and chant about Krishna, memorize things about him, you'll remember when you sleep, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we also eat, right? So what you eat will what's the old saying about eating? You are what you, is that true? What's true about it? Say why it's true. Give them the green microphone, that's for the middle. Why is it true? In what way is it true that you are what you eat?
Hare Krishna. My small understanding, both physical and mental things develop based on the type of food that we eat.
How?
Like if we eat food that is, from a physical perspective, it nourishes the body, gives good health, and also the type of mentality that we develop, and the nature that we develop depends on, what type of food that we eat.
How can somebody unpack the science behind that? How does that work? Mataji.
Prabhuji, I don't know much, but I've read somewhere that the food, basically, we categorize the food in the mode of goodness. Or so if you eat the food which is in mode of goodness, or it's sattvic in nature, that kind of gives you sattvic thoughts, or makes you maybe inclined towards learning the things which is sattvic in nature, or doing the activities. And same thing which is tamasic or rajasic in the nature, if you eat the food which is in the mode of tamasic or rajasic, you are more kind of attracted towards those kind of activities.
So where is that stated? She gave us an excellent point, and now we'd like to know where that's stated. Mukaravind, where is it? Can you produce that evidence in this court? Please produce the evidence. The law books are in the back. See, in a court of law, you have to actually produce the verse. You can't just go before the judge and say, "This is my theory," and you say, "Well, why do you think that that's true?" And you say, "I just think it is. I heard it somewhere." You have to give the number and verse, page and verse. Ramananda, you know where it is?
I saw an ad in TV, this is many years ago, that this lady eats donuts, and then they keep showing the back of that lady, and that back also becomes like a donut.
If you were on a strict donut diet, what do you think would happen? I mean, just physically, what would happen if you... There's an old saying, an apple a day. Yeah, just on a gross physical level. So what if you change that to a donut a day? What? A donut a day does what? The doctor is here to stay. Well, look at this. We have evidence here. These are scriptures. They're written on paper. They're passed down from the great sages, and we have them. This is the foundation of our movement. This is not a movement of cultural momentum, but it's based on Scripture. As Krishna says at the end of the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, you should base whatever you do and say on Scripture. Even Krishna himself quotes the Vedanta Sutra within the Bhagavad Gita when he's speaking to Arjuna, just to set the example. So whenever we make a point in spiritual circles, we have to back it up. Just like in a court of law, you have to back it up. Otherwise, it's considered whimsical. The great Acharya, Rupa Goswami writes, Shruti Smriti Pranadi Panchatriki Vidim Vida Aikantiki Harer Bhaktir Upatayaiva Kalpate. Any kind of devotional theory or practice which is not in line or backed up by the Shruti, the Smriti, the Panchatriki Vidhi, is simply a disturbance to society. So here we have some evidence from the Bhagavad Gita, 17th chapter, verse number 6. Those who undergo severe austerities and penances not recommended in the scriptures, performing them out of pride and egoism, who are impelled by lust and attachment, who are foolish and who torture the material elements within the body as well as the supersoul dwelling within, are to be known as demons. Even the food each person prefers is of three kinds. According to the three modes of material nature, the same is true of sacrifices, austerities, and charity. Now here are the distinctions between them. Foods dear to those in the mode of goodness increase the duration of life, purify one's existence, and give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Such foods are juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. Foods that are too bitter, too sour, salty, hot, pungent, dry, and burning are dear to those in the mode of passion. Such foods cause misery and disease. What kind of food is that? Misery and disease. Huh? Cheetos? Mountain Dew and Cheetos. How about that? Some people, that's what they eat. And there's all kinds of fast food. Some people eat meat. It's food from animals that have been killed, and then the meat is processed. Who knows what else is in it. It causes disease and misery to the animal that was killed, and there's karma involved for the person who eats it also. It's not healthy, right? Food in the mode of goodness, what kind of foods are those? Beautiful organic fruits. What is it? Sweets? Yeah, sandesh, top of the list. Definitely sandesh on top of the list. Even when you make sandesh, you'll feel in the mode of goodness. Sandesh, you have to take milk from your cow, and then you you can take it and make it into curd by adding some coagulant, like put some lemon or some buttermilk, and then it coagulates, and then you can take that and hang it in a cheesecloth and let it drain for some time. Then you take that coagulated milk and you can put it on a hard surface. Best to put it on some marble or stainless steel. And then you start kneading it with your hands over and over again for maybe 45 minutes to an hour until it becomes so smooth there's no more little granulars within it. And then that gets cooked with a little sugar, some flavoring, and then you can put it in a pan and let it set. And then some people, they have a little mold you can make where you make a press, just like you do with cookies, and you can come out with nice shapes. And then what do? Then you offer to Krishna. Sandesh. These kinds of foods are the mode of goodness. Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohanji Ki Jai. What other foods are in the mode of goodness? Fruits, dry fruits, whole grains, vegetables, milk, healthy foods. Mode of passion, fried food. Food in a mode of passion is too everything, too bitter, too sour, salty, hot, pungent, dry, and burning. Yeah, chaat. And then here you go, food prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten. We're getting into the mode of ignorance here. If you don't want to hear this, cover your ears. Food that is tasteless, decomposed, and putrid, and food consisting of remnants of untouchable things is dear to those in the mode of darkness. Now, ghee is a pure food stuff. Ayurveda uses ghee for a lot of things, right? It's good for the body. It's a medicine, ghee. And when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur sent some of his devotees to the southeast, that was in Burma. And there, people eat foods in the mode of, some people eat foods in the mode of ignorance. There's a kind of food there called nafi. And they keep a pot, clay pot, and they catch all kinds of bugs and lizards and things like that. And they throw it in the pot, and they let it ferment for many years. And then they drain off the juice. And sorry, we're on the mode of ignorance here. I told you to cover your ears if you weren't ready. And it smells objectionable, to say the least, to those whose senses are accustomed to food that is in the mode of goodness. So the devotees who were there were cooking in ghee, making puris to invite people over. They were making these offerings of nice ghee. And the people who are their neighbors, who are accustomed to eating nafi, they said, "Oh, what is that terrible smell, that ghee? Please stop. You're ruining the neighborhood." So each person's senses get accustomed. And Mataji pointed out, too, that when you take these kinds of foods, that they affect your consciousness and they affect your body. So there's a science, foods in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So Krishna said, all that you do, all that you eat. Now, what about a different category of food, which we call prasadam? What's prasadam? It's called, prasadam means what? Who knows? It means what? Mercy. It means the favor of the Lord, right? So, is there a difference between food in the mode of goodness and prasadam? Yes. Okay, what's prasadam? What's the difference between just really nice food in the mode of goodness, like organic, you name it, organic what? Apples, dates, milk, foods in the mode of goodness, right? Don't you feel even like brighter just hearing about them? Okay, then what's the difference between those and prasadam? Karma free? Yes, Damodar?
Prabhupada in the purport said those
Why don't we use the microphone? We'll share with our guests online. Welcome to everyone who joined us online today. Everyone, please turn towards the camera and say, welcome, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, food in the mode of goodness increase the lifespan, pleasing to the heart, etc., which we discussed. But prasadam is, Srila Prabhupada said in the purport, is like an antiseptic. It kind of removes all the things, and then, it can be eaten, Srila Prabhupada says, even after 3 hours, as long as it is offered to the Lord.
Even more than that, it's in Jagannath Puri, it's a tradition. If prasadam hits the ground, even if a dog touches it, you still take. It's never contaminated. Bring me Antya-lila, Volume 1. And it's transcendental food. And how does it become prasadam? How do you do that? How do you offer your food and make it prasadam? Yes, Prikishori? Yellows for front row, greens for middle, reds for back. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. So, in order to make ordinary food into prasadam, you offer the food to your guru, and your guru offers it to his guru, and through the parampara system, the food gets offered to the Supreme Lord, and that those remnants become prasadam.
Prove it. Give us a verse to prove that's a bona fide way of doing things. From the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, offer me something.
Patam pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti upahritam ashname priyatatmanaha. And he says, with love, offer me a fruit, a flower, a leaf, or some water with love. And that's prasadam.
But what's the last part? If you offer with love and devotion, then I will?
I will accept it.
Accept it. That's amazing, isn't it? Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, He's close to us at all time. The Shastra says, Tare jati tannai jati taddure tadvantike tarantarasya sarvasya taru sarvasya sibhayataha. The Supreme Lord walks and does not walk. He is far away, but He's very near as well. He's within everything, and yet He's outside of everything. The Upanishads speak like this. But the point is, Krishna, when He's fully aware of our intentions, fully aware of our intentions. And if we offer something with love and devotion, then Krishna will accept it. Here's one of the names of Krishna, Bhava Grahi Janardana. Bhava Grahi Janardana. It means that Krishna knows what our bhava is, what our emotion is towards Him. So if you with love and devotion offer something to Krishna, He'll accept it. And after Krishna accepts it, then it becomes prasadam. So can anybody do that in their home? Or do you have to be a priest? Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, anyone with love and devotion offer me a leaf of flower, fruit of water, I'll accept it. And then it becomes sanctified. Prasadam means that it's the Lord's mercy. And in the Bhagavad Gita, we know, as we quote this verse all the time, Prasade sarvadukanam hanirasyo prajayate prasana chetaso hyashu buddhiparya vatishtite. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, when you get prasadam, when you get the mercy of the Lord, then your misery goes away. Right? Dukanam hanir means your mercy, your misery is killed. Then, buddhi paryavatishite, then your intelligence becomes strong. This is what happens when you take prasadam. And then you also become steady in devotional service. Prasade sarva dukanam hanir asyopajayate prasana, and you become happy. Your mind becomes happy. These are the effects of taking prasadam. So here's a science. All that you do, all that you eat, so whatever you eat, if you first offer it to Krishna, then it becomes prasadam. Then when you eat it, then what happens? 3 things I just named. One is Your misery goes away. How do you get free from misery? Pop quiz. Take prasadam. Then also, Hanirasya upajaya prasana chetaso. How do you get a happy mind? Answer is? Take prasadam. Buddhi parivatishte. How do you make your intelligence steady? Spiritually steady. Okay, A, take prasadam. B, take prasadam. C, take prasadam. D, all of the above. Which is it? All the above? Okay. Yeah, so these are very practical things Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita. All that you eat, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, do as a sacrifice to me. You connect it to Krishna. Then you'll become situated transcendentally. Here's something really amazing that Krishna says about, that Prabhupada says about prasadam. This is from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Lila, chapter 1, text number 92. This is a little esoteric. Are you ready for this? Yes. If you're ready, say yes. Yes. Okay, everyone else cover your ears. The river Ganges, flowing in the heavenly planets, is full of golden lotus flowers, and we, the residents of those planets, eat the stems of the flowers. Thus we are very beautiful, more so than the inhabitants of any other planet. This is due to the law of cause and effect. For if one eats food in the mode of goodness, the mode of goodness increases the beauty of his body. Purport. One's bodily luster and beauty, one's constitution, one's activities, and one's qualities all depend on the law of cause and effect. There are three qualities in material nature, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 13:22. Karnam gunasangosya sarasad yoni janmasu. One takes birth in a good or bad family according to his previous association with the qualities of material nature. Therefore, one seriously eager to achieve transcendental perfection, Krishna consciousness, must eat Krishna prasadam. Such food is sattvika, or in the material quality of goodness, but when offered to Krishna, it becomes transcendental. Our Krishna consciousness movement distributes Krishna prasadam, and those who eat such transcendental food are sure to become devotees of the Lord. This is a very scientific method, as stated in this verse from the Nala Nishada. From where? Where is it from? So when you go back to work tomorrow, you tell your friends, I know something from the Nala Nishada. You want to hear something from the Nala Nishad? Here it is. Karyam nidhanad dhi gunam adhite. If in all his activities a person strictly adheres to the mode of goodness, he will certainly develop his dormant Krishna consciousness and ultimately become a pure devotee of Lord Krishna. Profound, isn't it? Should I say it again? If in all his activities a person strictly adheres to the mode of goodness, he will certainly develop his dormant Krishna consciousness and ultimately become a pure devotee of Lord Krishna. Unfortunately, at the present moment, the bodily constitutions of the leaders of society, especially the governmental leaders, are polluted. As described in Srimad Bhagavatam, Asamskrita kriyahina rajasa tamasavrita pujas te bhakshayishyanti mlechya rajanu arupinaha. Such leaders have no chance to purify their eating. Politicians meet together and exchange good wishes by drinking liquor, which is so polluted and sinful that naturally drunkards and meat-eaters develop a degraded mentality in the mode of ignorance. They're making all the decisions, they come together and they drink some hooch, and the next thing you know, they lose their intelligence. The processes of eating in different modes are explained in the Bhagavad Gita, wherein it is stated that those who eat rice, wheat, vegetables, milk products, fruit, and sugar are situated in the elevated quality of goodness. Therefore, if we want a happy and tranquil political situation, we must select leaders who eat Krishna prasadam. Pretty simple, right? Otherwise, the leaders will eat meat and drink wine, and thus they will become asamskritaha, unreformed and kriyahina, devoid of spiritual behavior. In other words, they will be mlechas and yavanas, or men who are unclean in their habits. Through taxation, such men exploit the citizens as much as possible, and in this way they devour the citizens of the state instead of benefiting them. We therefore cannot expect a government to be efficient if it is headed by such unclean lechas and yavanas. So this goes to the strong case that Krishna is making in the Bhagavad Gita about how we're affected by our habits. One of the habits that is prominent in our life is our eating. And if you start changing your diet, then your life will start changing. Your consciousness changes. Obviously, your bodily constitution will change. Because if you eat a donut a day, the doctor's here to stay. If you eat an apple a day, it keeps the doctor away. So it's that simple, but it also acts, as Damodar Prabhu was saying, on a subtle level. Or was it Mayapur Bihari? Someone was mentioning also, Prabhupada said something very profound in the Nectar of Instruction regarding eating food that is not cooked by devotees, that's not offered. He said, if you eat such things, then your mind becomes wicked. That's a pretty heavy word. When I read that, I thought, boy, who wants a wicked mind? The mind becomes wicked. That's some kind of... let's hear what wicked means. Then you tell me if you want a wicked mind or not after we hear it. Wicked means... N-O-I. See if you can find wicked. It's probably only a few hits for that in all of Prabhupada's books. What does it mean?
It's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to hear this, cover your ears.
Yeah. Evil.
Evil, oh my goodness.
Morally bad in principle or practice. Sinful. Iniquitous. Mischievous. Distressingly severe. Unjustifiable. Dreadful. Beastly. Having a bad...
Beastly.
Having a bad disposition. Spiteful. Malevolent. Extremely troublesome or dangerous.
Okay, so that's what you get when you eat food that's not offered to Krishna.
And it's got an interesting origin. It's 1225 to 75, Middle English. Wicked, W-I-K-K-E-D, like wicked, equivalent to wiki, bad, representing a wizard or a witch.
Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, you can be attacked by, if you eat all kinds of food cooked by people. They put their consciousness into the food, actually. There was a novel written maybe 2 decades ago called like Water for Chocolate, and it was all based on this topic about how when you eat food cooked by somebody, it takes on their qualities. In fact, if you eat food by somebody who cooks with love and devotion for Krishna, then you'll start to develop that quality as well. So I have a few secrets to share tonight. 3 secrets for developing an uncommonly powerful spiritual practice even while living right here in Silicon Valley. Would you like to hear them? Yes. Okay. 3 secrets to building an uncommonly powerful spiritual practice even while living in Silicon Valley. How many here live in Silicon Valley or nearby? How many live in the Bay Area? How many live somewhere outside the Bay Area? Okay. 3 secrets to building an uncommonly powerful spiritual practice even while living in Silicon Valley or anywhere else. Okay? All right. So, the first secret is that our attitude is the portal through which we see the world. We don't see the world the way it is, but we see the world the way we are. And that has to do with our attitude. It's a philosophy we have in life. It's what we believe about ourselves, about the world, how we connect things to the Supreme. And that attitude affects everything in our life, and it is the foundational point for developing a powerful spiritual practice, attitude. Have you ever heard the statement, that your attitude will determine your altitude. Anybody hear that? How about this one? Attitude is everything. You ever hear that one? Do you have it on your wall at work? Anybody put it up? Sometimes there are companies that sell motivational posters that say things like your attitude determines your altitude, or attitude is everything. These statements are true pretty much everywhere, but in spiritual life it's very much true. In fact, in the very beginning of the Nectar of Instruction, in Srila Prabhupada's preface, he says that a devotee's advancement in devotional service is dependent on his or her attitude. We'll hear from Shraddha what attitude means in a second. She'll just look it up in our electronic dictionary. But I want to talk about several attitudes that are particularly powerful anywhere you go, but especially in any realm, but especially in developing spiritual life. One is a mantra that you've probably heard before, but it's worth taking to heart. Have you heard this before? If it's to be, it's up to me. Please repeat that. If it's to be, it's up to me. So this relates to the next point. These are two sub-points, and they're related to one another, and that is that I take full responsibility for my situation. I take full responsibility for my situation. Whatever situation I'm in now, I say, it came about because of the decisions I've made throughout my life, how I've conducted myself. I'm in a particular situation. And according to Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita and Narada Muni in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a way in which whatever we have now is a result of whatever we've done previously. And the Vedanta Sutra says that we are agents and we can make decisions because we're not dead stones. We have volition. And the decisions we make in life will determine our outcomes. And whatever we're experiencing in this life, from the time we come out of the womb and find out who our new parents are, that's always exciting, right? Say, where did I land now? You come out of the womb and say, now I have a new situation, a new set of parents, and you're also going to have a certain amount of wealth in the family that you're born into. And that's something that the Shastra says is fixed. How is it fixed? Because Purusha prakriti stohi bhunkte prakriti jan gunan karanam gunasangosya sarasad yoni janmasu. Because of my previous associations in my last life. And Narada Muni says, therefore, tasyaiva heto prayateta kovido nalapyate yad brahmatam uparyada. He says, don't work too hard on the material side, because on that side of the ledger you won't be able to adjust things very much. Consider what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught his followers when he first took sannyas and he took them out across the countryside. He said, just see how the Lord has filled up the universe with food and money, but every person can only get what's allotted to him or her. Do you feel that in your heart when I say that that's true? By experience? You can't always get what you want, right? Yeah. You can get what's allotted to you. You can work harder, maybe 3 jobs, and then you may get ahead, you may not get ahead. Some people naturally are born ahead of the game. We were visiting a family recently who said that when their infant was born, because of the infant's grandfather and grandmother, he was the richest little infant in the whole country. He didn't have much to do with it except in his previous life. He was born into it. So there's a way in which everything I do, I take responsibility for. Every situation I'm in now, I take responsibility for. And this is the foundational philosophy of any self-help. Any self-help section you go to in the bookstore or library will tell you that you have to take responsibility for what you have and what you are. You can't blame other people. Otherwise, you don't have the power to change it. So this attitude that if it's to be, it's up to me, and that whatever situation I'm in now is my responsibility, is a very empowering kind of attitude to take in spiritual life. And it's there in the Shastra. Even Lord Brahma says, Tate anukampam susumikshamano bunjani evatma kritam vipakam. He's saying that whatever I have now, even whatever adversities are in my life, I've created for myself. Is that a bold statement? It's empowering though, it's liberating. When one takes full responsibility, then one can begin to change one's life. When one accepts the fact that the material situation is going to be imperfect. When the demigods and demons churned the milk ocean, what were they looking for? Do you all know this story? This is a famous story. Anybody here been to Bangkok? Raise your hand if you've been to Bangkok, Thailand. 1, 2, 3, 4. In the airport in Bangkok, Thailand, when you just get out of immigration, what do you see? Huh? Churning of the milk ocean. You know, they have a diorama, a rather extensive diorama. It's actually from this side of the room to that side of the room. It's gigantic. It's a scene of the demigods and demons churning the milk ocean. That's in Thailand. Angkor Wat, where's that? Cambodia. One of the wonders of the world, the temple built there, a Vishnu temple. And there they also depict the churning of the milk ocean. There's an ancient story from the Vedas about the demigods and demons coming together to churn the milk ocean to get what? Nectar. They wanted nectar. And that's not Mountain Dew. That's fake nectar. Coca-Cola, fake nectar. This is the real thing. They wanted to become immortal. It's what everyone wants in this world. And what did they get when they first started churning the ocean? They got poison. Doesn't that seem apropos? Doesn't that happen? And in this creation, Krishna says in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, every activity has some sort of fault, just like fire has smoke. Fire is the best thing. You can do Vedic sacrifice with it. You can cook with it, things for Krishna. But it also has smoke. So there's fault in everything here in this creation. The only place you can go where there's no fault is to the pure platform of Krishna consciousness. So the attitude of taking responsibility and accepting that if I'm going to move forward in spiritual life, I have to make some adjustments. We call these voluntary life changes. Those are called VLCs. Everyone say VLC. So you have some VLCs in your life. Some have bigger opportunities than others because we may be conditioned. Conditioning means that I'm forced to do things that even my intelligence doesn't endorse. Does that sound familiar? Have you ever had to do something that your intelligence did not endorse? Your intelligence says, I do not endorse this. And the mind says, so what? I'm doing it anyway. Or the tongue says, that's okay. We'll figure it out later. Later means that you get a reaction for that, because whatever you touch ill-advisedly here in this material world creates a reaction, and the reaction is that you got to do it again. You do it once, and the senses come back and say, do it again. And the intelligence says, I told you not to do it last time, now don't do it this time. But the impulse is twice as strong because you already gave into it once, and there's a way in which we can become conditioned. But even amidst that conditioning, if we take outside help, and where does that come from? Bhagavad Gita. Here's the outside help. When you hear Bhagavad Gita, you take information that comes from beyond the senses, beyond the mind, and beyond even our own human intelligence. It comes from a transcendental realm. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Tatvavittu mahabaho gunakarma vibhagayo gunaguneshu vartanta iti matva nasajjite. He said, by hearing transcendental knowledge, you can become tattvavit. you can know the truth. Something beyond what you experience in this material world, you can know by hearing from higher authority. And that higher authority, the highest authority is Krishna. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. That information comes from Bhagavan. It's not manufactured in this realm, but it comes from the spiritual realm, from Krishna. And if you take that information, you can bypass the middleman, the senses, the intelligence, the mind, and you can actually perform transcendental activities which are not conditioned, beyond conditioning. So the trick to developing a habit, developing a new way of doing things, going beyond the conditioning which is so frustrating in this world, which keeps us doing things which are ill-advised even by our own intelligence, is by taking outside help, and that comes from Bhagavad Gita. If you read Bhagavad Gita every day, you'll hear Krishna's words, and it will direct you. It will direct your intelligence. Where does Krishna say that in the Bhagavad Gita? 18th chapter. Shall we look at it? Just so you make sure I'm not making stuff up here. It comes in the 18th chapter, near the end. Krishna's giving some really sweet advice in here. And he tells in the 18th chapter that he says in 1858, I'll go to 57 too, because these are so nice. Just by hearing this, everyone will become so enlivened that you'll feel optimistic for the rest of 2016, spiritually optimistic. Are you ready to experience that by hearing these words from Krishna? Here they are. 1857, in all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. 58. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. 59. If you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, he's speaking to Arjuna, then you will be falsely directed. By your nature, you'll have to be engaged in warfare. Under illusion, you are now declining to act according to my direction, but compelled by the work born of your own nature, you will act all the same, O son of Kunti. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of material energy. Here's one you can just take to heart and read over and over again. O scion of Bharata, surrender unto him utterly. By his grace you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode. I love that word, utterly. Surrender unto him utterly. This is called sweet surrender. And it's practical because you say, how do I surrender? Starts with reading the Bhagavad Gita. Just like your health starts with taking an apple a day rather than a donut a day. You say, how do I change my health? It's very practical. Don't take the philosophy that a donut a day is good for me, because your mind might tell you that, right? Can your mind justify eating a donut a day and say this is good, it's not a bad thing? Yeah, there's so many good things in donuts. Just one a day, it's not going to hurt me. It will. It will add up over time. So in a similar way with this utter surrender, with this practice of spiritual life, it starts in a simple way. You can start by reading Bhagavad Gita and listening to what Krishna has to say. It's that simple. You simply have to hear the words because they are transcendental. This is the theory we're presenting, and in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, of this Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada, the author of Bhagavad Gita as it is, says, in order to take the full benefit of this book, suspend your disbelief and accept that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Do that, even if you don't believe it, suspend your disbelief, and then take it in that spirit. And that's how simple spiritual life is. If you take in the spirit of submission that Krishna is the supreme, and you listen to his words carefully, he'll speak to you directly. He already is. He's there within the heart, and he's speaking to us. But the Bhagavad Gita is his speaking externally and will harmonize with what he's saying inside, and will be properly directed by hearing the Bhagavad Gita. So advancement in spiritual life is as close as developing this voluntary life change, which is to hear the Bhagavad Gita every day. In fact, we recommend, do not leave your house and face the world without first reading the Bhagavad Gita. Don't chance it. There's too many conflicting situations. There's too many temptations. There are too many anomalies in this world to risk walking about without having fortified oneself by first hearing the Bhagavad Gita. And how simple is it? You can have a Bhagavad Gita right on your nightstand. You can have a Bhagavad Gita in your living room, and you can open it, even if you just read one verse. Last night, I was sitting with my wife, Nirakula. We came home. I was starving. I had a snack. And she was sitting there, said, what else can I do? I said, could you read a verse from the Bhagavatam? So she pulled out the Bhagavatam. She read verse 1 to 17. And just by hearing that, the entire atmosphere was changed. I could have just sat there and ate my snack. But now it was a transcendental experience just by hearing. And then she read another verse because we didn't want to stop. It was so nice. And this is a voluntary life change that one can take, and that is to voluntarily read the Bhagavad Gita and voluntarily read the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's very much recommended. And you can experience it for yourself. Krishna says earlier in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, there's nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Everyone wants to experience this sublimity. Therefore, they watch movies. What do you want by watching a movie? You want sublimity. That's what drama is originally created for. You go to a drama, you go to a play. My parents used to take me to the theater all the time. And we go there so that you could experience something. There's a whole science to drama that takes you out of your body and gives you a sublime experience through drama. And now it's become so crass. Any movie that sells nowadays has a chase scene in it, or 100 chase scenes in it. That's what the whole movie is. It's just some peak experience they're trying to give your brain over and over again. Very few subtleties, very little sublimity, if any at all. But in the Bhagavatam, in the scriptures, it's a rarefied sound vibration. It's a rarefied presentation that will give you what you're looking for. You actually will experience that sublimity that you really want, that the mind wants. The mind hankers for something sublime. And you get it from reading Bhagavad Gita because it really is something extraordinary and beautiful. It really does speak to the soul. And it's that kind of voluntary life change if you make, it's that attitude that just by taking responsibility for my own spiritual life and making these voluntary life changes that I can improve. So, more about attitude. Did you like those Bhagavad Gita verses? Even though you've heard them so many times, just hearing them again is wonderful, isn't it? Yes. So, here's another part of attitude. Here's a mantra that you can keep with you and use in various situations throughout your life to great benefit. It's a very powerful mantra, and it could change your life in a very positive way. So if you don't want to change, cover your ears right now. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, I'll say it, you please repeat. I live to be corrected.
I live to be corrected.
It almost makes you wince when you say that the first time. I don't want that. I live to correct others. I don't live to be corrected. I want to correct everybody else. But if you take this attitude, you're trying to take from your environment and actually be submissive to what Krishna is trying to tell you in your life. Even a fool can give you some good instruction. You can find out what not to do or how not to act. And when people are speaking, try to find the lesson in it. Try to take from what people are saying, rather than overriding what they're saying. While they're saying it, I'm thinking, when they stop talking, I'm going to tell them something really good. And you can notice this in conversations. When you're having a conversation with somebody will start telling you something about their vacation or something, and then, let's say, I'll chime in and say, yeah, but they say, I saw some ducks. They say, but I saw a goose. That's nothing. I saw a swan. Everyone wants to override what the other person's saying. There's a book written called Listen. There's a lot of books about listening because nobody does it. Everyone wants to talk over what everyone else is doing, and everyone's thinking, I already know that. But if you become a little submissive to your environment and what Krishna is trying to tell you through other people, and you live to be corrected, you can learn lessons from people who you thought were your subordinates. You can learn lessons from situations that you thought were disastrous, but you can actually come out of being the most mature kind of person because you took it in the right way. You took the lesson from it. So attitude, adjusting your attitude towards the environment is the way to spiritual advancement. I live to be corrected. A couple of side points about attitude that really help in life to keep you clear and open to spiritual advancement. One is, I don't carry grudges. What is a grudge anyway? It doesn't sound like something you want to carry around, does it? A grudge. You got a grudge on you? I got a couple grudges. You better dump them before you go swimming across the ocean material existence, or they'll sink you. You carry grudges and you don't have room in your heart to give to others. Don't carry grudges. Why? Why carry a grudge? You can deal with things appropriately with other people. Doesn't mean that you have to let people walk all over you, but you don't have to carry the grudge. You can forgive them within your heart. I have a habit developed many years ago. I can't even remember where I got it from, but driving on the road, you can hold a grudge against somebody all the way home if they cut you off, right? Say yes, please, say yes. Right, so here's a technique I learned a long time ago. I verified with my wife. She's sitting in the back row here. Somebody cuts me off or does something crazy. Nirkula, what do I say? I forgive you. It's for me I do it, because I don't want to carry the grudge. I don't know who the person is. They could be the best person in the world. Why would I hate them? I can't even see them in there. But immediately I'm released from that energy. I just say, I forgive you. And if you carry that mantra also within your heart, wherever you go, when these things come up, doesn't mean you now have to deal with things appropriately. You may have to deal with the situation, keep your posture, but in your heart you can say, I forgive you. You're not obligated to carry grudges wherever you go. That's an attitude, decision that you can make. And also related to that is abandon envy. There's no reason to envy others because everyone in this universe, every cat, dog, bug, and human being gets exactly what he or she deserves. And if I understand that properly, that everything I have now is because of what I've done in the past, and that everything is perfectly being arranged by the Supreme, why should I envy anybody else? Everyone's going to get exactly what they deserve, so don't envy. So the first secret is attitude. And there's a few things within the attitude, and we'll just take a couple reflections, no questions right now, but just reflections to say, before we go to the other two secrets, what you heard about attitude. Lightning rounds, 6 or 7 really quick points, what you heard about attitude that you're taking away with you. And the microphones are flowing fast. Here's the yellow one right between Shamalangi, and just pass it on back to Sundarananda.
Take responsibility for my own spiritual life.
Thank you. More. What else did you hear?
I'm ready to be corrected. So
I live to be corrected.
Sorry,
yes. And there's a microphone in the middle. Also, it's a green one. That's yellow. That stays in the front. The green one goes back. Green means middle. Yellow means front.
Success in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the executor.
Depends on our attitude. Yep, definitely.
I liked your point of listen.
Listen.
Yeah, and in the same lines, I heard
one more conversation where it said that in a conversation, if we spend 50% more time, that means you have overwritten the other person's.
Yeah, don't overwrite. Get ready in the back row. We need a few from the back row.
There is no need to carry grudge, otherwise you will sink in the when you cross the.
Yeah, don't carry grudges when you try to swim across the ocean of material existence. Okay, in the back.
Fortify yourself with Bhagavad Gita before going out.
Fortify yourself with Bhagavad Gita before you leave the house. Yes. And the very back.
Same as Mukharvinda Prabhu said, don't carry grudges, it's unnecessary baggage.
Absolutely. They're ugly little things, grudges. Yes.
I'm responsible for the situations I'm into.
Yeah, you take full responsibility for what you have and what you are right now. Why not? Yeah.
Abandon envy.
Abandon envy, that's one of your favorites. I remember when we did the seminar, you were sitting in the front row.
A good attitude is healthy for advancement, and a bad attitude is detrimental for spiritual advancement.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Okay, Victoria. Give her the middle mic, which is the green mic. Red mic's for the back, green's for the middle. It already ended up in the back. Okay, go ahead. Did you have a point before you pass it up? Yeah, go ahead. Give him the mic back. My color coding system is falling apart. Okay.
What I learned is Krishna has arrangement for everything. So what you get is what you get. Don't work hard to get something that somebody else has it. It's not made for you.
What a nice point. Thank you very much. That's beautiful. Pass it back. Behind you. Yeah, there you go.
I forgive you. That's the one I like.
Yeah, try that. Everyone say, I forgive you.
I forgive you.
Okay, here's a little homework. When you're driving on the road, and it's going to happen, you know it's going to happen, someone's going to cut you off, and what are you going to do?
I forgive you.
You may not feel like it. You may feel like saying something else. But do this. I forgive you.
I forgive you.
Yeah, try that next time. That's your homework. Okay, and we're moving on to the next secret. And what are the secrets? 3 secrets to building an uncommonly powerful spiritual practice, even while living in Silicon Valley or anywhere else. Okay, second one is incremental improvement. Go for the increments. So when you take this approach to spiritual life, that you can do it a tiny bit at a time, start with what you can handle. The Shastra says, Swe Swe Arikarya Nishta, Saguna Parikirtita. It's a good quality to assess what your situation is now and try to do what you can. In the Varnashrama system, there are various stages of life which are meant to accommodate our psychophysiological nature during different periods of our life. And if we assess with help from mentors what our particular qualification is for spiritual life, and we do what we can with what we have now, then we will advance to the next stage. And so you can take spiritual life in increments. You don't have to be a great yogi, renunciate. You just have to have a sincere desire and try to do what you can with what you have right now. And incremental improvement is encouraging because it's very difficult to overcome bad habits. Can I get a yes on that?
Yes.
Yeah. But if you start in a small way, in a simple way, in a way that you can handle right now, and there's a book out called Mini Habits by a blogger, and he wrote it. Most of the book is, expressed in the first chapter or so, but it's about how if you start a new habit by doing something really small that you can handle, and you do it consistently over time, then gradually you'll be able to develop competence in that and also steadiness in it. Now, any kind of practice starts in a way that is a little awkward. So there's a paradigm that explains how at first one is unconsciously incompetent. Unconsciously incompetent. That's a little scary, isn't it? I'm unconscious that I'm incompetent. But the next stage comes from associating with people who are competent, who may give you some instruction and show by their example of what competency means in spiritual life. And then you may become consciously incompetent. You may become aware, that's the a higher stage. So don't feel bad when you start looking at yourself saying, I'm wholly incompetent. Well, at least you're conscious that you're wholly incompetent. And that's a step above being unconsciously incompetent. The next stage above that, with a little bit of incremental practice, a little bit at a time, what you can handle with what you have now, the person becomes consciously competent. Consciously competent. Have you ever experienced this? By a little bit of practice, a little bit more, consistently. It's the 21st day, now it's the 28th day, now it's day 31, and all of a sudden you realize, I've gotten better. I actually am doing better than I was 10 days ago, 20 days ago. Sometimes there's a quantum leap. There are many studies about how people learn, and sometimes it's described quantum leaps. You practice something for a long time, and all of a sudden you jump to a new level, like riding a bicycle. Try to learn to ride a bicycle. At first, you're wobbly, you fall down. You fall down again, you fall down again. Then, all of a sudden, you start riding. What happened? You tried, and then all of a sudden you had a breakthrough. So, you become consciously competent, and you'll say, aha, now all of a sudden I realize I can do this. But you have to practice, and you have to fail, and you have to start and accept the fact that you're not going to be that good at it when you start. But through determination, you can continue, and as you go even further, you become unconsciously competent. It means you become so good at something from your practice that you're not even aware of the fact that you're doing it well. It's just part of you. It's just who you are. You become a master at something. There have been some books, although unverified, completely scientifically, about if you put in 10,000 hours of practice in anything, then you become a master. You've probably heard these theories before, and may or may not be 10,000 hours, or there may be some other factors to it. But the fact is, if you practice something for a long time, over a period of time with consistency, you're going to develop some competence. And the same in spiritual life. Take the time, start with what you have now, and continue. It's a wedge. When you start with the small end, doing a little bit at a time, and you keep pushing a little more pressure, then gradually it opens up an avenue that's very wide that you can drive through in your spiritual life. Incremental improvements. Okay, a couple of reflections about what we heard about secret number 2. First, what is it? Incremental improvements. And let's hear some reflections. Just 4 or 5. Come on, what did you hear? Yeah, in the microphone? Otherwise you only get 0.5% credit. Okay, go ahead.
Do with what you have right now, and then build upon that.
Yeah, all you can do is start with what you have now and try to apply it. And in fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, in a purport, Srila Prabhupada says that you may know exactly what you have to do, and you may not be able to fully execute it at first, but if you sincerely continue trying, then you'll be successful. Don't resent the fact that you can't do it well at first. More.
Always associate with people who are better than you so that you know that you are consciously incompetent.
Powerful, isn't it?
Yes.
It's one of the best ways to make advancement. In fact, it's recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam that you take help from the Mahajans. This is the best way to know what spiritual life is and to advance in spiritual life. Mahajano yena gatasa panta. Follow in the footsteps of those who are considered the great authorities. And you do this in any science, in any discipline. If you go into a science class, the teacher's going to defer to the previous great masters of physics, or the great masters of mathematics, or the great masters of gymnastics, and so forth. And we will refer to them. And so Bhagavatam says, Mahajano yena gatasa panta. Learn what the great masters have done and emulate. What else? Yes, Siddip all the way in the back. Red microphone can go to the back.
I like the point about assess your situation That also brought back to mind from your lecture about being deliberate. So that's the point I liked very much.
Assess your situation and then do what you can with what you have. Thank you, Sudeep. Two more? Yes. Here comes.
Constantly practice to come to that mastering certain things, certain whatever you want to achieve, mastering.
Yeah, it takes practice. There's a story about in New York City. You know Carnegie Hall? Carnegie Hall, yeah, Andrew Carnegie. He made billions of dollars and then he gave it all away. He built all kinds of libraries and he built Carnegie Hall in New York, which is a place where the most consummate musicians go to play and audiences come to hear. So the man who was walking along the street in New York said, he asked somebody, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? And the guy said, practice. A lot. So if you want to make it to an elite level in spiritual life, you have to practice. Those who are proficient in anything have paid the price. I was talking to Neil the other day. Neil Jariwala, moving his way up towards being a doctor. It's not easy. He's been through so many trials and so many tests he has to take to study for, and he just keeps meeting them one after another. And the other day when I was in Toronto, I met a devotee who was a doctor. I was just talking to him, and I was thinking about Neil going through all these different tests and trials, working his way up very determinedly to become a doctor. And then when I looked at this devotee who was a doctor, I thought, I saw all the things that Neil had been through, and I thought, this person's been through a lot. You don't just get a certificate that says you're a doctor now, you have to pay the price, right? So in spiritual life also, you have to take responsibility and you have to go through all the practices, all the phases of your life, and become proficient through this incremental improvement throughout one's life. Altogether possible, right? Say yes. Yes. Okay. Number 3, secret. So we're discussing 3 secrets to building an uncommonly powerful spiritual practice even while living in Silicon Valley or anywhere else. Here's the 3rd one. Control the tongue. This is where it all starts. Sometimes we think of yoga as mastering the headstand, or we may think about learning Sanskrit or doing so many other things. But the Shastra says, control your tongue. And if you can do that, then you'll become a master of all your other senses, and Krishna will come personally to see you. That's what the verse says. Atashi Krishna namadi nabhaved grayam indriye sevamukhi jivada swayameva spuratyadaha. Spuratyada, Krishna will appear to you if you take the trouble to control your tongue. Now, how hard is it to control the tongue, would you say? On a scale of 1 to 10. Huh? 100. On a scale of 1 to 10, controlling the tongue is about an 100. Let me read you something from the law books here, 11.8.21 in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Pingala says something about the tongue. First of all, something very ominous. In 11.8.19, she says, just as a fish incited by the desire to enjoy his tongue is fatally trapped on the fisherman's hook, similarly a foolish person is bewildered by the extremely disturbing urges of the tongue and is thus ruined. What imagery, isn't it? Biting onto a hook with a barb in it. And the fish does it because he can't control his tongue. He sees a little something there. Maybe it's a little piece of worm. The fisherman puts something on the hook. And even sometimes the fish, they see the hook, but they can't resist. They got to go for that little piece of worm. And then they get caught by the barb and they can't get loose. So we get caught by our tongue. Next verse. By fasting, learned men quickly bring all of the senses except the tongue under control, because by abstaining from eating, such men are afflicted with an increased desire to gratify the sense of taste. So someone might say, well, I'll just fast myself into submission. And then, of course, fasting is recommended on certain days like Ekadashi. If you practice fasting by not taking grains or just drinking water or not taking anything, you actually feel a little peace because you give everybody a rest and tell the tongue you got the day off. And then see how you can live with that. There's a lot that you can learn in that 2 days a month fasting. And it's recommended for so many reasons, spiritually and health-wise. So, however, this verse is pointing out it's not so easy. You can't just say, I quit and stop. Sometimes people say, I'm going to stop sleeping so much, and then you see them the next day and they're falling asleep behind the wheel and everywhere else. You have to incrementally employ these kinds of activities of sense control. Okay, so here comes the next verse. Although one may conquer all the other senses, as long as the tongue is not conquered, it cannot be said that one has controlled his senses. However, if one is able to control the tongue, then one is understood to be in full control of all the senses. I rest my case. That's right from the Srimad Bhagavatam. There are other shastras that mention this. And so, look no further. The tongue is a rudder that directs you in your life. And if you can control the tongue, you will be successful in spiritual life. This is a great secret. Now, how to control the tongue. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, be careful what you say. Can you do that? Can you all do that? Nisha, you're smiling. What are you thinking? Can you do that? Give her the microphone. Let's see what she has to say.
I think it's personally, I think it's very difficult, but if you work towards it, then if you keep practicing, trying to control what you say in certain situations, then it'll be easier over time.
I like what you just gave us, a paradigm we can live with. She said it's very difficult, but if you decide to do it and you practice it, you can come to do it, right? Can you control your speech? I'm not rhetorical, I'm just asking, is it possible? Is there a situation you've ever been in where you wanted to say something, but you controlled your tongue? Anything recent you want to share? Yes, Hansapi wants to share. Okay. Bring the microphone quickly, please.
On a New Year Eve, I had some friends over for dinner, and some were devotees who could be understanding of the people who are not devotees, and I was making some pasta, and I wanted to, of course, offer to the Lord and give prasadam. And Sonal happened to be standing next to me, and she saw that we both saw that the person who was not a devotee had take the green olive from the can, popped it in his mouth, and Sonal noticed that I noticed, and we both noticed it's like he ate it. And I saw Sonal; she controlled her speech. That made me say, "Okay, don't say anything."
Yeah. So this is.
And then I offered to the Lord, and then I added the olives to it. So person asked me, "So Krishna doesn't eat olives?"
Thank you for a real life example. You have another one? Okay.
There was a person who came to the temple, and she wanted some help and wanted to attend some programs, and she was asking me that she wants to meet with a devotee. So I searched in the temple for almost 15 minutes, and I found the devotee. And the person was reciting something from his phone or something, and then I tried to approach him, and he said that, just go away like that. And I felt like very offended, and then I wanted to say something. And then I really calmed myself, and I thought like, I don't have that intense desire to read something about Krishna, so why should I think like that? So right at that moment, the whole thing changes, because by your attitude, it's not that the person is reading some newspaper. You may feel offended because we don't demand respect, but he's reading about Krishna, so how can we think that you didn't give attention to you? So that really opened my things that.
So 2 live, real experiences of controlling the tongue, speech, that by association, Hansapriya saw Sonal, they looked at each other, she saw that Sonal wasn't going to say anything, they collaborated subtly and they didn't say anything. And when Gandharvika, when somebody goes like this to you, how do you feel? Yeah, there she is, right back there. Very good. The tongue wants to say something, and you know what? In one instance, you can lose your job. One slip of the tongue, you can lose your life. Loose lips sink ships, it says in the Navy. You can actually harm a relationship for life. If you feel some harshness in your heart, maybe your spouse, you're in a bad mood, you have low blood sugar, it's time to eat, but you didn't eat. And now she's going out of her way, or he's going out of her way to help you, but then you take exception because you're in a bad frame of mind and you say something. It could cause a lot of pain in that person's heart and actually degrade your relationship just because you let it come out. In fact, in the Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto, Krishna talks about how we carry envy within our heart, and if we let it come out through our tongue, it pierces others just like a spear would pierce somebody's heart. Harsh words spoken by an envious person are very injurious. So learning to control the tongue is a great science. It has to do specifically with speech and the way we eat. And if we work on that one particular sense, then all the other senses will follow. And this is the recommendation of the Padma Purana, Atashri Krishna Namadi, that you begin Jivha Ado, start with the tongue and learn to control the tongue, and by that, Krishna will become interested in you, and he'll appear to you because of your control of the tongue. A couple of points about controlling your tongue. Practical points. Here's one you can practice and remember. Don't talk behind people's backs. Unless you're a psychologist and you have a duty to tell some. Just be careful about that, because when you're discussing somebody else, a mutual friend, a colleague, with other people, and there's a spiral, downward spiral that can take place, talking about others behind their back. First, it starts with faint praise. This is a phrase in a Shakespeare play, damnation by faint praise. You could say something nice about them, but you say something that's half nice, which takes away from their glory. And the next thing, someone else can come up with a zinger about them, and the next thing you know, you're in the basement, and you're talking bad things about people who aren't there and can't defend themselves. So if you ever meet somebody who's got integrity, you'll see that if that comes up, they'll say, I'd rather not discuss this because the person's not present. So that's something that's very practical, and you will find this situation. When you're in it, remember this, don't talk about people behind their backs. Wait until you see them face to face. And then use nonviolent communication and tell them what you need to tell them. Express it to them, and don't be irresponsible. Another is, don't criticize other people unless you're doing it constructively. There is such a thing as constructive criticism, but there's also criticism which comes out of envy because you want to tear them down. Don't criticize others. And the positive side, speak words that are beneficial, truthful. Krishna says these things in the Bhagavad Gita. And he says regularly recite the Vedas. So you should constantly speak about Krishna or things related to Krishna. And finally, with what we started at the beginning of class, what did we start with? Before that? Prasadam. Control the tongue by taking prasadam. Offer the food before you eat it. So those are 3 tips, 3 secrets to developing an uncommonly powerful spiritual practice, even while living in Silicon Valley or anywhere else. Thank you very much. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Now, for the next part of our program, for all our guests online, we have many guests who have joined us on the internet today. We welcome you. Thank you for coming to Silicon Valley through the cyberspace. And everyone here who's taken the trouble to drive here, we're going to have a presentation, an offering of the results of the hard work of all the devotees in this community over the last 3 months and over the last year. It relates to our primary focus in our Sankirtan, which is to distribute the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and other books related to Krishna to as many people as possible in Silicon Valley and beyond. And the devotees have organized a very powerful team here, and they've worked hard, especially over the last 3 months, to meet very rigorous goals. And they have compiled all the results, and they're going to give a presentation about the effort that it took to do this, and also they're going to present the actual figures, how many books were distributed, how many dollars were collected, and so forth. And we're going to hear more about the procedure from Melanie, who's standing right over there. Are you ready? Okay. So what would you like us to do? Do you want us to stay seated for now, or do you want everyone to stand up and you're going to make the offering like that? Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll stand up, we'll put all the asanas that we're sitting on in the back of the room, back corner, and then we're going to make an arc around Srila Prabhupada's Vyasasana, because we're going to make the offering to our founder Acharya, who is particularly fond of books and asked us to distribute books. And when we make the arc, we'll leave a channel open between Srila Prabhupada and the deities so that we don't close off his vision. And then we'll hear from an offering written by our Sankirtan team. Does that sound like a plan? Yes. Hare Krishna. Yes. Thank you.
Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, hey, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman.